This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios. This is the Handicappers Report.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report. Alongside Brian Nadeau, I am Anthony Mormino on another beautiful September, now autumn morning in the Capital District. I mean,
it's coming back around, I guess, after that week of some
80
frigid.
degrees on Sunday. I had to put the air back on.
It's finally coming back around. I'm not complaining.
No, this is. I've said for many years. It surprises people. September has always been my favorite month on the calendar. I've always loved it as a child. And they're like, it isn't August. I said, no, August is way up there. But
even going back to school, you loved it as a child?
I was a two thumbs up school person.
Okay.
I am, and it thankfully has rubbed off on our son.
Okay.
I liked school a lot, a real lot, and it was enjoyable. And maybe some days I wish I was still doing it. I like that summer vacation idea. Although, guys such as ourselves, we work out a pretty good summertime event for the people that go to an office each day and go, oh boy, but obviously a big day. Brian and I were just discussing that they're going to draw entries for the big Saturday at Belmont Park. If you haven't seen, the opening day card at Santa Anita is out there, so the Santa Anita fall meet will begin before the Del Mar fall meet begins, before they get back to Santa Anita 3 months from today. Hard to imagine, December 26th, but a nice time of year. But one of the things, and I saw it on Seth, I forget who wrote it. If I think about it, I could come up with it. But I was thinking when they left Saratoga, Brian, New York, obviously, probably still the hub of racing. California had a great 1980s, but it's certainly, you were telling me what, you saw 4 entered in the Zenyatta and the Awesome again.
Right now, the probables, I know, I understand Shared Belief and Beholder are there, but it's, it's the racetrack that the Breeders' Cup is going to be run over in 4 weeks. A little shocking. So, but so California's taking a dip. I mean, as hard as it is to, for me to say that, it's taking a dip. But I tell people all the time, I'm old enough to realize that rarely is there any panacea on earth. I mean, there just isn't an single answer to solve your ills. But it's full crop size. I mean, it's also 20th century training and the avoidance and all this. But I've said this before, if you look at Ali Sheba's year, as he's crossing the finish line in the Kentucky Derby, you're basically looking at about 3 years. I think they were north of 45,000 foals. And I always use the grouping of 3 years because I believe when I go over Delaware Park, certainly first quarter of the year, it's 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds that make up probably, I never did a study of it, but let's just say 80-90% of the horses running on a card are 3, 4, 5. So you go back to the full crop size, you go, well, those would be the 3, 4, 5. And we just got the news for 2014, and there will be, it's continuing to go slightly down, but it's not going up. And that's about number of days they race. That's about number of entrants per race. And now you're having major horses. The idea, obviously, Brian, nobody wants to race over the track out at Santa Anita because it sounds like the horses who are going to get them, well, they've already had them. They've already, Shared Belief will get dirt again, so that'll be a little different. But I'm pretty sure Beholder's familiar with the Santa Anita 7 for
strip.
8 at Santa Anita. And along the lines of what Anthony just said, we saw last year what Mucho Macho Man did with a race over to Santa Anita track. Came back to win. Very beneficial. And again, I understand, Shared Belief is 1 to 100 on Saturday, and Beholder's 1 to 5. And Ayatapa's not a bad horse. She's going to pop up in the Zenyatta. But you would just think for a Grade 1 for 300,000 that they would have more representative races out there. And to take it one step further, I almost wonder, New York's got all the money, we know that, and the slots and that, but don't forget, those races have to be 300,000 to be Grade 1s. Yeah, so you almost wonder if that threshold wasn't there, where would they be? Because,
well, I know one thing. When it was 250,000.
They were all 250,000.
Right. I mean, I keep spreadsheets on this type of data, not only just grade ones, but and one of them is a column is the purse that they run for. And one of the arguments I've said all along, as a guy who believes in adjusting for inflation, since $300,000 won't buy you today what it would buy you in 1988, and I was an adult in 1988, right. And I said that, what's killing the Arlington Million is $1 million was gigantic in 1981, right. Gigantic. It was still rather robust 10 years later, but now
it's not at all.
It's not even right. relevant. If you remember the 1 year when they brought it back,
1 year for $2 million, was it? Okay.
Chester House ran for $2 million. That was the year after the 2-year absence, and that would have gotten it in line. Now the problem for the Arlington Million, now it's a race that I adore, but I don't even think $2 million will get it done because the Europeans have finally caught up with running for big purse money. But my point being that, purses and such have not really adjusted for inflation. These horsemen aren't running for the same dollars they used to be. The Breeders' Cup is the same thing, etc. Now it wouldn't change. You can't double the purses and have twice as many horses being right. produced on the farm. That's the central problem. But it does interest me down the road after the Breeders' Cup on November 2nd when we're reading all the alibis. Oh, we didn't like the track or right. something. Well, you could have found out on September exactly. 27th. And I mean, I don't know how horses work. I always say I got to look under the hood to see if it's a colt or filly.
Right.
But when you say they didn't take to it, I mean, horses they don't process information the way we do. Maybe if they ran over it and had their feet rattle or whatever it does, it would disturb them once. But they're smart enough to be able to adjust and go. It doesn't surprise them anymore. Right. So, but that to me is almost insane. When you talk about trainers who say, I'd like to get a race over the track, Jim Dandy versus the Haskell. Yeah, I'd rather run for $1 million in a grade 1, but I want the race over the track. Apparently they don't want to, the race over the track at Santa Anita.
Yeah, and you could almost, you could leave your horse out there if you're a one kind of stable barn type of thing, and you're there, you're acclimated. Even Steve Asmussen said yesterday he's shipping Untappable, who struggled there last year in the juvenile fillies, was, beating 100 lengths. And Tapature, they actually shipped to Santa Anita Sunday to begin a month of preparation.
So they're not
right. They're not going to race over the track, but they're there for a month. So they get well acclimated. They're going to be on it. Yes, and I'm surprised that more trainers haven't done that. And again, and the other thing we didn't hit on is the importance that the 2-year-old races, the Chandelier and the Front Runner, are run at 2 turns, and that's even bigger in this day and age. Now we know Keeneland with dirt back on next Friday and Saturday will have 2-turn 2-year-old races, but the Champagne and the Frisette are prime examples. You would think, and let's be honest, nothing against the West Coast, but those aren't tigers out there. American Pharoah breaks his 3 maidens cross the line 1, 2, 3 in the Del Mar Futurity. So it's kind of ripe for the picking. You would think. Why not
I
take
will
a
say
shot,
this: that day is coming in New York.
When a maiden wins a grade 1.
Well, because it's an A other than.
I understand. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
We've unfortunately arrived at that point where, and I go back to 30 plus years ago, and Woody Stevens, one of the few things that a trainer said after the fact that I do believe what Woody Stevens said, Devil's Bag could have broke his maiden in the hopeful. He didn't want to do it. He had swale, but he said he could have. But it's going to happen, but, it's already happened in Southern California. They've had multiple
times
maidens win the grade 1, whether it's the debutante or the
what happened last year with Baffert's colt, maybe it was 2 years ago, Power Broker, I believe, ran off and won the Front Runner as a maiden 2 years ago.
Yes, and didn't New Year's
Day might have
runner-up or something.
Runner-up,
they come back and win the. I mean, it's just because they don't run horses and there's no campaign, but it's a little different. But Sandy's going to open. Keeneland will open up a week from Wednesday. I did see a picture of Keeneland, and I will say this: what?
Week from Friday.
Week from Friday. It was beautiful because if you remember the old Keeneland dirt course, it looked blackish.
Yeah, it did.
I saw one picture and it looked brown. I mean, like dirt, like we think of dirt, brown. So it looked elegant. And I've said this before. If it's the old Keeneland dirt course, I have no use for it. But if they've fixed the problem of the golden rail in major stakes races, it'll be good. But I'm on record as saying I was against
the reverting back to dirt. I thought the poly track at Keeneland, and we talked about it, Brian and I talked about it before. I know it crushed the bluegrass, and the bluegrass deserved to be a grade 2 or grade 3, goodness. And it crushed the spinster. But for a guy who's really more paying attention to 15 days, 8-9 races a day, the Keeneland that existed from the fall meet of 2006 to this last spring, and I had tremendous success at it. But I'm the type of guy who can play a golf course and get killed and go, that's still a good golf course. Right. Most people need to shoot well to like something, but I'm going to miss Keeneland. I try and be objective. I'll see how it plays out, but I was never a fan of the old Keeneland dirt course. So I have a quick question for you. You said her name. Has Untappable wrapped up the 3-year-old Philly Championship?
Well, I mean, if Stop Charging Maria doubles in the Belle Dame and Breeders' Cup Distaff, and that double's paying about $620 right now, by the way. I would think so. You know, she was impressive in the cotillion, winning over a paved highway, beat a very good horse in Sweet Reason, albeit maybe a better one-turn horse. Yeah. And personally, and I am a voter, so personally it left a very sour taste.
That she scratched out.
That she scratched out.
And if I was a voter, you get demerits for that.
Yeah.
It was clear this was going to be a showdown.
I agree 100%.
You've entered, and you know you can have your own very acceptable reasons for, but you lose points. You know, she announced she was going. She come off a loss, and
to me, Untappable would have to do what she did last year in the Breeders' Cup, and that's chuck it badly. Because if Stop Charging Maria wins the Breeders' Cup Distaff and Untappable runs second, I'll have a hard time voting for Stop Charging Maria.
Yeah, no, she would.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, you know, we have forgotten about her because she has been on the sideline, but Beholder is out there.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, I've said this before. I said it about Blind Luck when she got robbed of her 2-year-old championship. I said after the fact, it's been affirmed was the last 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old champion. I mean, that's
2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Oh, no. Well, the bid would be 2, 3, 4.
And here's an interesting to hit on that even more. Okay, Beholder wins the Zenyatta at 1-5 on Saturday.
And beats Close Hatches.
And beats Close Hatches. When Close Hatches, let's say she runs second again. I cannot vote for Beholder off a 2-race campaign. She won the Santa Lucia in April, then was 4th in the Phipps.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Close Hatches, we rattle off the Azeri, we rattle off the Apple Blossom, we rattle off the Phipps, and then we dominate the Personal Ensign. Me personally, I don't...
What happens if Close Hatches finishes on a 2-race losing streak?
If she loses the Spinster and then loses the Distaff, then it's a little more foreseeable. Mucho Macho Man won the biggest race in our world, didn't get a championship off a 2-race campaign, essentially. Won the Awesome again in the Classic.
But you probably know people that know, I call it the shared belief idea, that it's different because Beholder's holding the mantle.
Understandable.
It's not supposed to count for anything, but I think we all recognize.
Right.
You know, she starts at a position of strength.
Yeah.
And then she did the sportsman-like thing and came east.
She did.
Didn't run awful. I mean, it was a great race. They all showed up, and the best horse won.
Maybe she'll pull a Surfside and run in the Clark or something like that. What do you think about that?
Offsprings of Seattle Sioux are okay with me.
I don't know.
She didn't deserve that championship.
Throwing it out there. But I mean, it'd be essentially a 2-race campaign.
It would be.
It would be hard to vote for her unless.
But probably a lot of the voters that you don't know as well as the other voters.
Heck yeah.
They don't watch very many races.
Heck yeah.
If it's the right 2 races, it might be 50% of the older Philly and Mare races they saw
for
2014.
Could not. I'm going to come up with it during a break today, but somebody voted for a horse. They gave a first place vote. I think it was in the sprint division last year on a horse that might not have made your top 10. We'll get into Delaware Park here, but I'm going to try to come up with that. We've got 7 at Delaware Park, 7 thoroughbreds, excuse me, at Delaware Park. Anthony's going to handle DP, and I will handle Belmont in a little bit. So let's kick it off in the opener at Delaware Park. We've got maiden claimers, the fillies, 2-year-olds going 5 furlongs. Our tag here is 7,500.
And one of the distressing things for me is that I didn't really think Delaware Park was in this, but I've seen multiple -0 buyer speed figures at Delaware Park, and Delaware Park was not the type of racetrack that I thought housed those type of runners.
It's a Beulah Thistle Downs
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I
right?
mean, it's it is what it is. Water seeks its own level, but the Delaware Park meet got off to a rough start and hasn't really found its sea legs. It's full crop size, folks. But 6.35 in the opener, these babies going out and missed the magic. We certainly hope not. I do think that this is, you have a water seeking its own level. At least I was. You started in from maiden special weights, then you tried maiden claimers 20, and you run well. You get the services of Forest Boy, so you obviously thought you could do something probably. And you do the right thing after running well for maiden 20. You step up to 40, like I said, trying to find out where you fit. Well, now you're down to maiden 7,500. Now that makes no sense to me, but we do have the one good effort on my birthday just before the track opened up. So that's where I'm headed. It all made sense to me until today at 7,500. Now, it's a short field here, and at 4-1, it's about as, third or second longest shot going to be on the board. So, Miss the Magic is my top pick. For second, number 3, Appealing Beauty. Now, this makes almost perfect sense to me, and I had intended to look for a condition book at Delaware, Brian, because it seems mathematically very odd to me that I have multiple horses. Like, I'm wondering, did the maiden 25 disappear?
Right.
Did somehow...
There's no level.
This makes no sense, and when multiple horses did it, I just felt as if, it's not a fire sale for these horses. This Appealing Beauty has run well for 30. Has run well for 25. I'm not that interested in the debut. And was bet in both of those races.
Yeah.
So now to run for 75, 15's not eligible someplace? So my thinking is, without getting the condition book, it's autumn now at Delaware, that the numbers are just different. So don't worry. My point being, don't worry about the maiden claiming tag and these being fire sales. It seems as if this is your option to run for a juvie. And for third, number 5, Christmas Barn. As I said, another one who found a 10,000, but that's at Timonium, so that doesn't count. That's a different condition book, ladies and gentlemen. So 6.35 in the opener, and I left off the 2 inside horses, which have the -0s. You know what I found out? Because I always had this question. I always wondered, did 0 exist? And it does.
It does.
I have seen at least one horse in my lifetime that got
a great
exactly a 0.
I've never thought of that, and I don't ever remember seeing it. That's a great question. You saw a 0.
I saw a 0 because it's like one of those things, like when you buy a car, I think many people do this, I know I do, you start to notice that exact car that other people have. Well, you see so many -0s if you look at Thistledowns, the old Beulah, etc. So I was like, well, you realize, well, that's there. I'm a math guy, so I'm like, well, I want to know, we've seen 1s.
I don't ever remember seeing one.
But a 0. When I saw it, I was like,
I'm going to have to keep my eye out.
The answer
for
to the
that
question.
It's like the white whale.
Yes, that's a very good analogy.
On to the second. We've got maiden claimers, 3-year-olds and up, where the tag here is 20,000. We're going a mile on the 16th on the Delaware Park turf course.
I will say this. I think the turf races by themselves today makes this a very exciting 7-race thoroughbred card. I love maiden claiming 20. That doesn't bother. I don't care. This might as well be the Breeders' Cup turf for me. 4, 6, and 8, and at 10-1 on the morning line. Do you know Clyde Martin?
I'm looking at this horse for the first time, and Anthony's next question is going to be: why is he training for Augustin Stable?
Right.
I have no idea, and I'm pretty. I'm going to say this twice. I steeped in the steeplechase game. I have no idea who Clyde Martin is. I will text Sean Clancy and ask him, because I don't know why he's training for Augustin Stable.
Yeah, sometimes, most of the horses I think about, bet on, I don't know the connection. So there's obviously a warranted trust factor. It's Augustin Stables. They didn't get Hank, who fixed the transmission the other day. Hey, you want a job at the farm? We're short a couple of hands. So explicitly just trust the idea that Clyde Martin, whether it's young, it doesn't matter. You get the information, we learn something new, which is fine. 1 for 22, that's in the daily racing form. That's somewhat immaterial to me. Augustin Stable is enough that it's like, listen, they know how to win horse races. But for me, it's the Maria's Mon on the top side, turf pedigree. I know Maria's Mon will probably be known for 2 things in the thoroughbred world. One is winning a championship without running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which is very, very rare, just as Shared Belief in Declan's Moon. And secondly is a sire of Monarchos, a Kentucky Derby winner, running the second fastest Derby. But for me, Maria's Mon is a turf influence, and I get the 2 turns, I get turf, I come off of a good route turf effort. The 5 furlong one was immaterial to me. As a matter of fact, it helped the 20-1, 21-1 price the next time out. I draw a good post position here. Remember, at Delaware Park, the same angle as Monmouth Park for me, and it was on the network the other day. They come out of that chute, and you start to think that the real inside horses, that maybe isn't the best post position draw. So deciding 10-1 on the morning line, Carol Cedino in the saddle is my top pick. For second, I was hoping that the horse that was cross-entered at Laurel, number 6, chooses this spot, and I thought I had working in my favor that I suspect that Mark Schumann is at Delaware Park. So this horse has had 2 races at Delaware Park. So Tessito, number 6, is my second pick. I like the effort in the middle of the summer going a mile 70. The 7.5 furlong race didn't work so well, but now runs for a tag for the first time. Not for Love, Brian. I pointed this out the other day. I was working with Jeff Carl, and I know Not for Love is a big-time stallion, Maryland Central. But I said this. I'm 51 years of age. I have followed racing on a daily basis for 32 years. And I saw something at Laurel about 2 weeks ago where Not for Love was the winning stallion for 3 consecutive races on a card. And I don't care, Breeders' Cup Day with Mr. Prospector 20 years ago, I have never seen a stallion shoot out 3 winners in a row in races. And he's a big-time stallion.
He is a big-time stallion.
And on the bottom side, if you're my age old, he does not show up on pedigrees anymore, but Lord Avey was a 2-year-old champion, dirt, talking 1980, that famous Traverse Stakes with Willow Hour, Pleasant Colony. He's the horse that runs 3rd, never runs again. He is a big-time turf horse. I think he's the son of Lord Gaylord, and if you go back to turf, he was one of the first influential turf stallions in the United States. But I love the pedigree on here at 8-1, and I really want this horse to be at Delaware Park today, not Laurel. And for 3rd, number 8, Paper Street. They had blinkers this afternoon. Graham Motion sends out this runner, who's an offspring of City Zip, who, as we have seen, has become and really, I think, has been a far more prominent turf stallion than precocious dirt runners, which was obviously his game at Saratoga almost exclusively. I can't. Did City Zip even ever try like?
Yeah, he ran in the Kelso.
The Kelso,
yeah, he did run in the Kelso.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That was a good job by Linda.
And City Zip, a half-brother to Ghost Zapper, who, well, Ghost Zapper could do anything, but, you know, I'd say best known on the national scene is Going Long. So, and City Zip never, I want to say, never got a pan
I think
past
it Ghost Zapper, and I say this in all honesty, I do say it to get people, I firmly believe this, and I do say it to get last, but I believe this, is the best thoroughbred I've seen since Spectacular Bid.
I was actually going to say, I didn't see Spectacular Bid, but when people ask me who the best horse I ever saw was, it takes me 1 second to tell them it was Ghost Zapper. Without question.
And I had this come up the other day. We used to have the banner on Capital Off Track Betting, the old website, was his allowance victory beating Clock Stopper. Now, for a guy who rails against 2 to 5 shots daily, when he won that race,
Dallas Stewart and Overbrook Farm.
Yeah, I turned to people and I said, that was he fought it out every step of the way at 2 to 5. I said, that was a great effort. And I beat Ghost Zapper in the King's Bishop with a huge exacted valid video and great notion. And I turned to a friend of mine with Ghost Zapper, and I said, that's the last time he'll lose.
Yeah.
He never lost again.
I've sat in the stands as a fan, not in the industry, when Ghost Zapper won the Vosburg as a 3-year-old, and looked over to a buddy next to me and said, what the heck was that?
I'll give you
it
the funny
was
thing.
Remarkable.
It was the only
Remarkable.
Vosburg they ran at 6.5.
Yep.
It was his first race after the King's Bishop. I
Older
was
horses,
doing the
obviously.
Handicappers Report, and he wasn't a gigantic price for coming off of a loss,
he was
taking
3 to
on
1.
L. And I said he can't lose.
Yeah.
He
Guy
would
to Star
crush
maybe
this
was his
field.
favorite,
It didn't
yeah.
matter. I just remember he was, and it was 115 and change.
The age of technology, Clyde Martin is a family friend of George Strawbridge.
How great is the steeplechase game? Maybe he did fix the transmission.
So we'll leave it at that. On to the third at Delaware Park. We've got fillies and mares, 3-year-olds
like
and
them?
upwards.
Was it Sean?
It was Sean Clancy. 3-year-olds and upwards who have never won 2 races. Our tag here is 5,000. We're sprinting 6 on the main track.
Embrace the day. This is an angle, I've talked about this 2L sweeping the nation. It's a great condition, and my top pick sort of fits the part that I think really helps out horse racing. 362. Tim Ritchie sends out the 3 for me. Now, in the 6th career start, after having 3 runner-ups in the 5, broke the maiden for a tag. Now, steps into a condition where this horse won at 8-5 and is 7-2 on the morning line. Young Mr. Ridbro was taking his tack to Delaware Park very wisely. Is doing very well. Moving from, he was at, remember, at Gulfstream Park in the summertime, lighted up the board, moved up. I would be happy to take 7-2 first time versus winners, and I've said this before. Athletes, equine starting, figure out their game. Now, this horse ran well in their 2nd and 3rd start, so they tipped their hand that there was some stuff there. And for Tim Ritchie, this is a very obvious spot that these 2 L's are available. For second, number 6, Love Undercover. Broke the maiden 2 back, tried this condition, just lost. Now, did run off the board, but less than a length for all the money on September 17th. Now, that was for a $5,000 tag 2L with Smokin' Juan Vasquez sending out the runner. And for third, number 2, North Light Lady. Was off for nearly 6 months. This would be the 3rd start off of that layoff and makes a considerable drop down. Gets off the turf. So the price tag for me, I don't know if the bottom is claiming 14 2L when you run on the turf. I do suspect that turf racing usually has a higher floor in claiming tags than dirt race. So I'm not worried about that so much. I am liking the 3rd race off of the layoff. So 3-6-2 in the 3rd.
All right, on to the 4th at Delaware Park. We've got 3-year-olds and up. They're maiden claimers. Our tag here is 20,000. They're going a mile in the 16th on the Delaware Park turf course.
Another fantastic, the maiden claiming effort in here. The prices are a little less for me. Maybe that's wanes my enthusiasm a little bit, but 7, 10, and 1 as we come out of the chute. Zillions gets my top pick in here, and another Not for Love going to the post for me. And this is a runner who, first couple of races, not so good, but of late, very solid. So I know it's 0 for 7. But the way I look at it is, 0 for, it's working in the right direction. Now, you lose at 9-5, you're bet for the first time. And what intrigues me is, given a couple of shekels, this horse is run like at the same level, but the horse goes from being on average like 25-1 to shows up at 9-5. And as I said, it's not as though you ran in 4 killer maiden special weight races, then you run for 5. This horse has always run about the same level after the debut, but they bet the living bejesus out of him the last time. So hopefully we will get a better price today. Number 7, Zillion's my top pick. For second, the outside horse, number 10, Silent Patience. It might be the best kind in here. I'm going to throw out the yielding turf course. This horse didn't throw in an awful effort, but so maybe that was just on guts alone. But hopefully we get back to a firm turf course where this horse ran well over at Penn National 2 races back. For third, the other side of the starting gate, number 1, Drain, going out for the offspring of Siphon. I thought it's a better than looks final running position on July 12th, which was only the 3rd lifetime turf start, and that was at Delaware Park. I thought that was an okay effort. Draws down inside here. Now, for me, if the cavalry does come over and cave in on Drain as they come out of that chute, I'm okay with that. Drain will just want to settle in probably the middle to back of the pack. 7-10-1 in the fourth.
All right, it's going to bring us to our first break on the Handicappers Report. When we come back, Anthony's going to give out the last three at Delaware Park. Stay tuned.
I'm Steve Beck.
And I'm Seth Merrill.
Together, we're loose on the lead on Capital OTB, Sundays at 10 a.m. Why should they watch, Seth?
Sit down on Sunday, have a bagel, get some great racing conversation.
Cream cheese only, no jelly. Sundays, 10 a.m., loose on the lead, Capital OTB.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Belmont Bet Fest on October 4th. So sign up today, online at capitalotb.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook. Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to capitalotb.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. capitalotb.com.
And upwards, which have never won 4 races, are tags 5,000, and we're going a mile and 70 on the Delaware Park main track.
6-7-5, ladies and gentlemen. Amber Coast, who's 6-1 on the morning line, I think fits in this race very nicely. Going back, I know you got to go back a couple of races, and it was the Rudy Rodriguez barn. Raced very well at Delaware Park, but changing barns, but has recycled into that good form. I think the Timonium race, a nice tightener for this spot. Amber Coast, number 6, gets my top pick for second. The outside horse, number 7, Jeb's Brew, coming off of a 3L victory. But this horse has been razor sharp. Only 4 races back, won the 2L, was very competitive in the 3L before breaking through. That was in the slop. Now tries the 4L for the first time. And for third, number 5, Hidden Blitz, figures to be a huge price in here. Another Penn National horse shipping in, trying 4L for the first time after the victory at nearly 50-1 on August 15th at Penn National. 6-7-5.
All right, we'll move back to the turf course here. We've got 3-year-olds and up. It's a non-winners of 2 lifetime allowance racing. We don't see this too often. A mile and a half on the turf course.
I love this race. I just feel as if the one negative for me is Buck Benny can't be 6-1 with Josh Navarro in the saddle. I hope Graham Motion's runner is that price, but 4-6-2, ladies and gentlemen, for me. If the morning line odds holds up on my exacta, I'm very enthralled by this race. But number 4, Buck Benny is my top pick, an offspring of Dynaformer going out. This is the, well, do we still call him the Barnes & Noble operation?
Well, I think
is
he's sold,
there still,
didn't he?
right, and I'm like, is
I
there
think
still
he-
a Barnes
Yeah, right.
online at least,
Len
right?
Riggio, is that?
That sounds right.
Yeah, okay.
That sounds right. I picked his Noble Causeway in the Derby. That was about the end of it for me. But Graham Motion sends out this runner. Was laid off for better than a year. Came back, and I thought a nice trial return to the races effort on August 30th. Obviously in great hands. You have Dynaformer on top with Carson City on bottom. That's a rather diametrically opposed genes I would be expecting to get from the runner.
But in the hands of, Graham Motion, all things considered, you might think that, they were looking forward to this race in the book while they were getting this horse back to the races, and that the August 30th race was really like, just get out there. We got your next spot. You'll be tighter. But Buck Benny, one of my favorite horses on the card today. For second, number 6, Heroic Royal, who figures to be a big price in here also, and I think is sneaky. One thing I'll say about the 1.5 miles, yes, you have to be able to get the distance, but I've said this before, going 2 different ways. Rooters, sometimes when they're showing up to a mile, Prize taking down Stylen, if you get the pace to run at, you're good. If you're a 1.16 type turf horse, if you get the pace, soft, all of a sudden 1.5 miles doesn't seem that bad. And I think Heroic Royal is going to have a strong pace advantage here, and the question will be, can Jose Caraballo get the 12 furlongs out of this runner? And what is a nice race here. This isn't stiffs in here. For third, number 2, King's Giant. 4, 6, 2 in the 6th.
And we are now full circle on the Handicappers Report because Nina Gardner, the owner of Heroic Royal, is George Strawbridge's ex-wife. How's that? So it's full circle here.
Can I get a scorecard for this stuff?
We'll head to the 7th, which is our last thoroughbred race on the Delaware Park card. We've got maidens, fillies, and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards, maiden claimers, excuse me. Our tags 5,000, sprinting 5 furlongs on the main track.
I wonder who the et al. Are. 9-3-8, ladies and gentlemen. Where's the line against my top pick? In sharp form, comes off of a loss, and I don't think it's the first horse I've ever called on top, shipping in from Minnesota. But it'd probably be the second at the shipping in from Canterbury, ladies and gentlemen. For second, number 3 going out for Michael Gorham. Now this horse seems to be dropping down the ladder of relativity monetarily. And for third, number 8, Duck Duck Goose, ladies and gentlemen. 9-3-8 in the 7th and final thoroughbred race from Delaware Park.
And that's going to bring us to another break on the Handicappers Report. When we come back, we'll switch roles. I'll take over for Belmont Park. Stay tuned.
I'm Seth Merrill. Join me weekdays at 10 for Racing Across America. We'll look at important races from around the country, get insight from top handicappers and analysts, and preview the upcoming week in racing. That's Racing Across America, weekdays at 10, right here on the OTB TV network.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. With a newly designed and engineered internet wagering platform, enhanced video streaming, additional funding options, and 3 new individual wagering opportunities, CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. Combine that with our all-new mobile website. You have 2 of the most powerful, innovative, and advanced wagering platforms available today. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB television network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Handicappers Report alongside Brian Nadeau. I'm Matthew Moore. We're going to turn our attention to Belmont Park. We'll see if we have any interesting nuptial moments at Big Sandy this afternoon. Kicking it off, Philly Claimers in for 25 on the inner racing 6.
Yeah, and before we get into it, take note, we're going to 12:50 starting time today at Belmont. I believe that's the first day, and we'll only backtrack from there. But for the next few weeks, 12:50 is going to kick off the first, which kicks off the pick 5. 3-7-1 for me, Anthony, in the opener. Number 3, Insolvent, who I had a pretty big note on, 2 back at Saratoga. when she was in with friends and tried to speed pop the field at a big price and came up short behind Ave's Halo, excuse me, a little tongue twister, who she meets again today. But in Salvinoff, you can toss her last when she was in against 1X Company. Kind of a predictably a no-show that day from an impossible draw. Back with friends today. I think she can make the front. And that race at Saratoga when she was third to Ave's Halo, she came off a long layoff. Tonight, third start of the form cycle today. I think she's going to be a little tighter. I don't think she's got to go as fast, going 6 here. So I'm going to tab her for a mild surprise. Underneath Ave's Halo, absolutely hits hard here for Dave Canizzo. Tried her on a sloppy main track last time to close out Saratoga. I'm assuming Dave kind of wishes he had that one back. But she looked good winning for 25 at Saratoga, 2 back. Dave's made a nice niche, former Bruce Levine assistant, in the claiming game. So Ave's Halo, no doubt the one to beat. But you know what? She's 2 for 13 at Belmont. It's going to be a really short price. Sometimes leaves herself at the mercy of the pace. Let's tab her underneath today. In for third, number 1, Pura Vida Zen for Steve Klaseris off the claim. Steve does a great job off the claim, 29%, but the issue is first turf sprints, dirt to turf overall. He's about 9, 10, 11, 12%, so we're going to use that one underneath only. 3-7-1 to kick off the Belmont Park card.
Second half of the early daily double, maiden claimers in for 50, racing 8.
5, 6, 8 for me, and one of my favorite angles at the track, it's become one of my favorite angles, is the reclaim. And we've got that here for Chad Brown and number 5, Inca Saint, taken by Linda Rice for 50 back at Gulfstream Park. And Linda didn't get much out of this runner. Tried him in maiden special weights and tried him again for 40 last time and didn't fire, which is a little surprising because Linda does a great job with her claims. Palace obviously at the top of the list. Chad saw fit to take this one back for 40, actually bumps him up to 50 today. Goes a mile on the main track and hasn't run a mile since Gulfstream. He went 2 turns at Aqueduct on the main track over a good track, 2 turns going long at Saratoga on the turf. So he's back going a flat mile today at Belmont. I just think in a race where there's not much here, I like the fact that Chad went back in and claimed this one for Michael Dubb, who in Bethlehem Stable, and they had a great meet at Saratoga. We'll tab Inca Saint for a little bit of a surprise here. Underneath number 6, Identity Crisis for Kenny McPeak, another horse that's never run 2 turns in his career. Drops in today in for 50. Tried 2 turns at 50 at Saratoga last time. Ran very well, posting a big number behind First Bid, who came back to win for Linda Rice off the claim from Bob LaPenta. Identity Crisis, I don't really see 7-2 in here. I think he probably goes off favored. Underneath number 8, Flag on the Play, who actually is your morning line favorite for Kieran and the Darley boys. Adds first Lasix, a potent angle for Kieran and Darley. But this guy hasn't been seen since December of last year. We've got a son of Bernardini out of a Mr. Prospector mare who ran once at 7-1 and now all of a sudden is available for 50,000 off a long layoff. No, thank you. 5, 6, 8 to kick off the early pick 4 at Belmont Park.
That's a double whammy for Darley with Bernardini.
Yeah, right? Great call there. Things did not go according to plan, needless to say.
No, and I mean what's funny is, and it's happened with Ghost Zapper, is Ghost Zapper turned out to be like, he's okay. I mean, he's not a disaster, but he's gotten better, which is tough for a stallion to do when you start off slowly. And Bernardini, it's because of your expectations were so high and they paid so much for him. And everybody said they looked so awesome coming out. Yeah. And so with all of that, he's been a flop. On to the third. State breds, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, maiden special weights, going the popular autumn distance of 6.5 furlongs.
I'll chalk out here. 1, 5, 6. Number 1, Sweet a Fleet for Michael Ferraro. Came down to Saratoga in her debut. Go back and watch this replay, folks. It's one of the funkier races you'll see all meet. This filly was pressing in the 2-path, was going to go by and win, in my opinion, and all of a sudden got the old bolt sign and just took off and went as quick sideways as she did forward, and was, oddly enough, she rebroke in about the 18 path, I don't know, in mid-stretch to get second. I'm assuming we'll see a tighter version of this filly today. She's going to enter off of Bullet Work, off of Mike's home base at Finger Lakes. And, you know, on paper, she's the horse to beat, and then you trickle through the rest of the field, and she's really the horse to beat because there's not a heck of a lot in here. Underneath, and I'm going to kind of show that by picking Warm Heart underneath, who hasn't been out since December of 2012 for Mark Hennig, who's off to a hot start at the meet after being snake bitten early and often at Saratoga. Warm Heart showed some talent, went second in her only start, but obviously the long layoff here is a concern. Nice to see John Velasquez ride, if nothing else. Underneath the 6, Moonlight Fantasy for Mike Hushin. Didn't fire at all in her debut at Saratoga, albeit behind a really good field, Girl About Town and Verisimilitude. Broke a step slow, was green. Well, she gets outside a little better today. Moonlight Fantasy eligible to show more, but you know, on paper, this is, if you're looking for a single in your pick 4 and your pick 5, Sweet of Fleet at about 420 is probably at 156 for me in the third.
On to the 4th, Open Company, 3-year-olds and up. Fillies and mares, maiden special weights on the inner turf, racing 6.
Yeah, I've got this 391, a little bit of a price here. Number 3, Harp and Halo, made a pretty good debut for me for John Terranova. Sent off at 30-1 in her debut. Broke 7th from inside in the 2-hole. Showed some speed in a hot first quarter and first half. Tired a little bit late to finish 4th, but you know, we all know John is about 5% first out. But he's 14 second out. He's much better going second out. And I think this filly in a wide open race has got the most upside, the most room for improvement. At 6-1 on your morning line. Boy, I'd love to see that. I'm not sure if we'll get it. But I think Harp and Halo is set up for a nice run. Underneath the 9, Miss Letch, who's favored here for Chad Brown. 3-1 on the morning line. It's got that old Jekyll and Hyde, good race, bad race, good race, bad race, which tells us we might have a bad race here, and ladies and gentlemen, this will be her 5th start, and she's showing 5 layoff lines. So I think, needless to say, we're not dealing with the soundest horse on the back stretch. So at a short price from a wide draw, let's just use Miss Letch underneath. And for third, a price here for number 1, Corright for Dave Donk, 26-1 in her debut. But she did lure John Velasquez that day, and these guys go way back, so I don't make a big note when they team up, but it's nice to see John re-ride off a pretty modest 8th. Half a furlong more today to work with. The rail's an issue. She did break slow in her debut, but I would think Corright is a little tighter today. 3-9-1 in the 4th at Belmont.
On to the 5th, State Breds, 3-year-olds and up. Fillies and mares, entry-level allowance on the Widener, racing a mile on the 16th.
I'm going to try a price here, Anthony. 7-1-5 for me. Number 7, Funky Monkey Fever for Dave Donk in the Funky Monkey stable. You know, just got run off her feet basically last time going a flat mile here at Belmont when they flew early. Stretches out a little bit more today, and I think she might be a little bit closer off what should be an honest, but I don't think a crazy pace. And it kind of sounds odd. I'm taking a deep closer who might be closer today, and you think it could play against her. But I think it's just going to make the field a little more compact, and it's going to get her in contact with the field, entering the turn, and I'm hoping Funky Monkey Fever at a big price can mow them all down. Underneath the 1, Milky Your Way, who's eligible to get first run here for Dominic Schettino. Didn't fire last time at Saratoga, but if you look at her prior turf races, they were very sharp, a couple of them coming over this very turf course. Milky Your Way is tactical enough to sit close and maybe get first run off the turn. And for third, number 5, Lady Creasa, a half-brother to the venerable King Creasa. We all know him very well. And while Lady Creasa has taken his tote action, she hasn't really done a lot to warrant her reputation. 4th in her last 2, including at 3-5 in a 9-horse field at Saratoga, off a 4th place finish 2 back at Saratoga. You know, Lady Creasa, she figures with these. She's 3-1 on the morning line. She's got to prove it for me. I'll make her beat me. 7-1-5 to end the pick 4 and the pick 5 on the Belmont card.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, second half of today's action from Belmont Park.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Belmont Bet Fest on October 4th. So sign up today, online at capitalotb.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to capitalotb.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. capitalotb.com.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere, the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, up to race number 6 at Belmont Park. 3-year-olds and up, starter allowance $25,000. Going the popular is 6.5, and I'm not going to get into it, but very interesting starter allowance conditions as we see them broadening. Do you see that?
What do we have here? 3-year-olds and up, which have started for a claiming price of 25 or less, and have not won a race
since
April 15th.
Yeah. So.
Or start a race. Yeah. Well, we got to get field size.
Well, that's what it's about. The starter allowance, it has now about 3 or 4 different.
Well, we talked about
legs.
it last week. Different, and it's just a matter of filling the fields, basically. So
exactly what it's about.
Sure, we'll see even different conditions,
Absolutely.
especially over the winter.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
Over the winter, they're going to get very intrigued.
One of my biggest plays of the day here: 1A 3-6 for me. Number 1A Glickman for David Jacobson. Not surprising to see this horse run huge off the claim last time, but what I really like about this horse is that this guy was entered for 12.5 last week. He scratched him out of here. Now he's going to pop up in a spot where he can't lose him. Draws a tactical attack post. I don't think Glickman needs a lead. He just broke running last time against a group he was much better than. Went about his business. To me, he's set up to score today. You even get Black 40, who with Andre Worry in to ride. He's going to, both entries I'm assuming are going to start. They don't have to scratch. 1A Glickman to me is one of my stronger plays of the day. Underneath, Finding Candy to 3 for John Terranova. If you look at this race, there seems to be enough speed to set up a late rally, and you get a little bit of an extra half furlong here. So I think Finding Candy off the Terranova claim, and John's not really known as a claiming barn, but you look at the stats, folks, and he's 3 for 12. He's 25%. I know it's a small sample, but John usually moves him up, and he reaches out for Javier Castellano, or retains Javier Castellano, which I always like because he's not a guy that rides for John too often. And if Finding Candy has a little room for improvement, he's going to be tough to beat at a price. For third, the 6 Sir Bond, who goes off the Chris Englehart claim. And another horse that wants to close. You know, he's going to have a lot to do off the turn, but the pace in here looks to be sharp enough to aid some underneath runners. 1A 3-6 as we kick off the late pick 4 at Belmont Park.
Up next, you have 3-year-olds and up. Optionals in for 80. Classified allowance 7 on the Widener.
1A 2-3 for me. I'm going to try to beat the heavy chalk BioPro, who I'll get into in a second. Number 1A Strong Impact, another Jacobson runner, goes second off the layoff. I thought he ran pretty good when chasing ZA Approval, last time. You know, ZA Approval second in the Breeders' Cup Mile, got a confidence builder last time, kind of hit the front, went about his business, and Strong Impact was left to chase and, you know, paid the price late. But he draws well today. He should be able to stalk the pace from the outside. And second off the layoff, I think he's set up for a pretty big run. He's going to be fair value. You know what? Underneath the 2 BioPro, who's every bit of 7 to 5 on the morning line, and you look at his form, we see Wise Dam, we see Optimizer, we see 5 Iron, Big Blue Kitten, Shiad, that's fine and dandy. But, you know, Bio Pro, he's not exactly a win machine, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be a very short price from what could be a tricky inside draw going 7 furlongs. I just think there's better bets on the card than him at 6, 7 to 5. You know, he could even get caught up in what could be an honest pace with Golden Rifle, who I picked underneath in there, stretching out from 5.5. So let's try to beat Bio Pro. Let's try to beat Golden Rifle, who's also 9 to 5, who I'd want nothing to do with at that price. He was really fortunate to get second at Saratoga last time in a slow race. We'll try to beat them both 1A, 2, 3 in the 7.
On to the 8, 3-year-olds and up. Open company fillies, entry-level allowance, 6 on the inner.
3, 7, 8 for me. We're going to try price with ever awesome Lisa Lewis and Joel Rosario. Teamed up last time on this 5-year-old mare in the rising class today into a 1X. I understand that. But this mare is in very good form, goes second off the layoff, and I think she can get first run on a lot of the closers in here by sitting just off the speed. It's going to offer a ton of value. I don't really see 12 to 1 on the line, but anywhere from 6 to 8 to 1 I think is feasible. You're going to get fair value. She's going to get first run on the closers, who I'll get to in a second. I just think Ever Awesome should sit the right kind of trip and might have some upside in here. Underneath the 7, Zendaya, who's not a closer. She knows one way to run, and that's hit the front. Faces winners for the first time for Christophe Clement. Stretches out a half furlong off a big score at Saratoga to break her maiden. And I think that she's going to face a little more heat in here, and Ever Awesome should be right off her early, right off her often. I'm going to play her underneath for third, Ballerina Belle, who is that one-run stone-cold closer. She always gets a piece. She rarely gets there, and we'll hope that's the scenario today. 3, 7, 8 for me in the 8th at Belmont Park.
And in the finale, State Bred, Maiden Clemmer's in for 40 on the Widener, racing a mile.
8, 7, 12 to wrap it up for me. Number 8, Star Trip Enterprise for Nick Essler. Joel Rosario has run one time on turf. It was his best race, and now he adds blinkers today in a race where I don't see there's a lot of speed in here. I would expect Star Trip Enterprise to break running with the blinkers on, hopefully make the front and forget to stop it, which should be a pretty nice price. Underneath Cody's Notes, who ran a winning race, second-time turf last time at Saratoga to close out the August 24th card. At the mercy of the pace, which I don't like, but should be closing underneath. The same with Chasin' Chama for Bruce Brown, but this draw is terrible. The price is going to be short. It's progressed in each start, but I'm just not sure how much more progression there is here. Let's try to end the Belmont Park card with a price 8, 7, 12 for me in the finale.
And that wraps up our look at both Delaware Park and Belmont Park, ladies and gentlemen. And also, we invite you to sign up for a Capital Bets account. As we are getting closer and closer to the Breeders' Cup, we invite you to CapitalOTBBet.com. Easy as 1, 2, 3, a state-of-the-art wagering platform. And now through the month of September, when you open up that new account and you bet $50, Capital Off-Track Bet will give you $50 free to bet with it as you please. I talk about it all the time. Nothing like free money at the track, especially this time of the year. And we invite you to come down to the Legends Field at 7-Eleven, right outside our doors here. Watch all the games on the Legends Field restaurant and pub. Good food and good drink. Some jersey giveaway and handicapping contests Sundays in the month. Also in-home simulcasting this afternoon, Suffolk Downs, 12:45, as unfortunately they get closer and closer to their final card. Belmont's new 12:50, Laurel, Delaware, Kentucky, Hoosier Park, Presque Isle, Pocono, Woodbine, Mountaineer, Australia A, B, and C. And speaking of Indiana type of racing, we have up next will be Seth Merrill with Racing Across America, and young Miss McLaughlin from Indiana Grand will be on, and Jeremy Plonk from Horseplay Now. One of the things that makes it easy about the state of Indiana, a couple years ago when they whacked it up and they made Hoosier Park the standardbred operation, right. Indiana Grand will be the thoroughbred operation. Up next, Racing Across America. Have a great Wednesday afternoon.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.